didn't know how to apply for a bail. So that kind of a situation we are, and it is very important that we remember uh, that we lack lawyers who could represent those marginalized sections. And this also law is becoming very costly. Anyway, thank you for inviting me for the government law college Kozhikode. So I'll just go with this a footnote, and I prepared for this talk actually on caste, because I wanted to write a reply for one of the special articles which was published in the EPW. So before that, I just want to have a footnote. See, on reservation, I don't want to go deep into what reservation is, but I want to just ask, if I ask reservation, they would say that reservation is like 100 years of oppressing. So it is needed because for 100 years you have been oppressing us. That is one. Second thing is, they would say that you have been studying in English medium, your social and economical power is very different from the marginalized section. So therefore you cannot equate both the quality. So that is why reservation is founded. These are the two meritorious arguments they would bring. Actually, reservation's argument in 1940s itself, there is a recent judgment which came, which was delivered by the Supreme Court on subclassification. That subclassification judgment, it's very important that as a law student, if you want to know about the equity and equality, fundamental rights, these all things, you should read that judgment. In that judgment, actually it's very clearly noted out, until 1950, the court was considering reservation not as a meritorious argument. The merit argument comes after 1950s onwards. Why it comes is, there were another two arguments were there for reservation policy. One was that Dalits are not being allowed into the university spaces. Therefore, you should make sure that you get a reservation. So one is that. Second thing is, economically they are backward, and socially they are backward, and so many generations of oppression. So that is another argument. But sadly, all the lawyers and the judges took the second argument and suppressed the first argument. One example to give is, for example, you would see if reservation argument comes on internet, you have some photos where there will be a stool, and Dalit will be, would be standing on a stool and saying that is equality. On a running race, they will say Dalit cannot be, Dalit should not be given as an equal race mark. They should be given some preference. But actually, this is all meritorious and anti-reservation argument. Actually, for an example, I would equate you. For example, in a bus, you have reservation seats for women. It is not that women cannot sit there. It is not that women cannot stand. It is not women's bodies are weak. No, it is not that. The reservation in the bus and any physically differently abled, it is given for them because in the bus, when 100 people are gathering into it, women cannot fight over it. So men monopolize the power. So therefore, they make sure that equal representation is given. It is not to say that women's body is weak. So it's similar that it is not about in an institution reservation. Why reservation was provided is, it's only because of reservation Dalits were allowed, because it was a mandatory that the institutions and university spaces and other government offices fills this reservation policy. If they don't fill, they'll be called for inquiry in the SC/ST Commission, and their funds would be stopped. Because when Ambedkar was talking about reservation, he said that reservation is needed because we are not being allowed even to sit in the class. So therefore, you should make sure that public properties are protected under the equality of law. So therefore, that is a reservation argument. Second thing is about Rohith Vemula, and which I'll talk about caste and Rohith Vemula. See, actually, Rohith Vemula is such a very interesting phenomenon. And also, before that, I also have to thank this fraternity movement for remembering Rohith Vemula, because that is a solidarity I think we need in this hour. So the Rohith Vemula is actually the last final letter he wrote. Rohith Vemula wrote about love actually. He wrote about that I've been searching for love, and everywhere there was love, I was getting hurt, because love was never unconditional. So apart from that, he talks about the stars, that he wants to go on stars and he wants to study this, he wanted to be like this. But interestingly, the mainstream media, including Dalits and all of us, took that his language was very important. We all thought that Rohith Vemula's language and Rohith Vemula's dream Rohith Vemula's poetry, all these things were very importantly taught, and for all these years we have been talking about that. And I recently found that what we all missed is the love and compassion what Rohith Vemula was talking about, and that is a love and compassion what made him. He was lacking from that, and that is why he committed suicide actually. So that is the final letter he wrote. Therefore, that becomes very important that why the concept of love is important. The concept of love, I think that is very important because it is only because through the concept of love we respect each other. For an example, this Malappuram district, like I come from Pattikad now, and that is Malabar, right? I come from Malabar area. In Malabar area, there is so much of respect, of mutual understanding. Even if I go on a road, even if I sit there, morning I ask a road address, there is a mutual respect is there. That is not there in Tamil Nadu. You go to Chennai, you go to auto drivers here, and auto drivers, even very far, they take 30 rupees, 60 rupees, but you go to Tamil Nadu. No, this is not there in any other state. And it is because, and there are many other things also. I found that the compassionate and love was more in Malabar, actually, Malabar area. So therefore, I find caste actually you find in HCU campus where Rohith Vemula was part of ASA, as in Ambedkar Students Association, and there was another DSU, the Dalit Students Union. So there were other people also, very small numbers. They were not part of either of the groups. So why they cannot come under a single identity? It is because you cannot mobilize yourself on basis of caste. Because I believe that caste itself is an idea grew up through hatredness. Caste makes you to hate oneself. For an example, the philosophy of caste is what is the ideology of caste is very important than human being. But no other thing, no other ideas where human beings were given second hand thought. Human beings were primary. The love of human being was primary, but not in caste. So caste treats you how you should treat men should hate their own body, women should hate their own body. And you know that we had this earlier system called Sati system, that you have to burn yourself. So that hatredness was there to protect. What do you protect is you protect about an ideology, not human beings. For an example, you will be my sister when she was, I remember still, when my sister attained puberty, there was periods. My mother used to send her to a separate room in my own house, a separate room, and give her a plate. So you can discriminate your own daughter, okay? Because your ideology is important. So in this ideology, only hatred is there. More than hatred, you live for the ideology. For an example, you Tamil Nadu, you take that one Dalit guy married a non-Dalit woman. Then the non-Dalit family goes and murders the daughter and the son. So 18 years they grew up a daughter. How can they even imagine that the daughter can be murdered? So they think about this is because they feel that ideology is very important, that caste ideology is very important. So that is why I say that the concept of love is something very important that Rohith Vemula was talking about, and we have to inculcate and debate about and pay attention to the concept of love. So now actually when we come to the caste, so this is my idea, okay, this is my new idea. So now coming to caste, where did this all people miss the caste? See, actually caste was studied apart from Ambedkar and Phule and various other people. Caste was not studied from a perspective of oppression. It was always studied from a perspective of an oppressor. So actually all these oppressors were this all Badrlogs who were in academicians. What they did is, in caste there are two things actually. Very interestingly is, it's only Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's writing and Phule's writing and Periyar's writing and here Ayyangali's work and other works here. And all these works were referring to caste as a phenomenon of a human being, as an individual human being. Individual means relationships. Okay, they were talking about relationships between human beings were very central. But what the non-Dalit writers started writing about caste, and they started writing not about the relationship between human beings, they started writing about the upper caste relationship with the nation state. So, for example, a green revolution was there. They said there was one community which was going up, they would say. So, therefore, they would say that caste is now more seen as a phenomenon of family. So, they always stick to caste as not a family relation. Caste is a relationship with the society. For an example, Ambedkar would say that for him, most important primary thing on caste was to intercaste marriages and relationship between human beings. Actually, as a law students, we should also know that Ambedkar's idea of fraternity was not about fraternity what we imagine from the French. Ambedkar's fraternity, he writes in Annihilation of Caste, that my idea of fraternity is not, I not borrowed from French, but it is from Buddhist philosophy of love. Unconditional love they should have between human beings. So that is what he said, that he included that in the Constitution of India. So Ambedkar was talking about the human love between individuals, and his idea was always about Dalits versus the non-Dalits. In those non-Dalits, there's a hierarchical structure on caste. What we believe is, we believe that Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then Dalits. So actually this is the structure which we have been taught, okay? This structure is not there. For example, we don't have Kshatriyas here. Kshatriyas are warrior class. We don't have warriors here. We don't have warriors in Tamil Nadu. So what these literature studied, the Brahmin literatures and others who studied caste, who wanted to protect the nation and protect their protect their class. So what they started doing is they tried to argue that caste is a phenomenon that to study relations between the OBCs and OBCs. For an example, I'll give you one example. There is this Andre Bethele wrote a book called Caste and Class. It's a very popular book. So he discusses about village. He takes a village. In that village, he says that there are Brahmins, there are OBCs, there are Dalits. And then the Brahmins, Agraharas are there, and there's a temple there. So he says that at 1990s and 1980s onwards, Brahmins started going to abroad, US, as scientists and engineers. They started going there, so that therefore they wanted to sell the house. So earlier OBCs were not allowed into the Agraharas, but now it was sold to OBCs. So the Brahmin writer writes that, see, the caste is changing, okay? But so that literature is a pioneer literature, okay? That is a landmark literature. So it is like that. They would always study the relationship between the Shudras and the Vaishyas. They would study the relationship between Vaishyas and the Brahmins. But that is not the caste system we have on the ground. That is a literal way of studying caste. Even Ambedkar never said caste is four varnas, he said, but he never spoke about this that much, okay? He was always talking about the individual relationship between human beings. So therefore, what these all Brahmins writers did is that. So for an example, I'll come to Kerala. We all say that Kerala does not have caste, right? Everyone believes that, at least Dalits don't say that, and I don't believe Dalits are an academic space to counter that argument. But I would say that when they say that caste is not there in Kerala, and I think the problem is you are not, when somebody says that there is no caste in Kerala, then I would say that there is no, he or she doesn't even know what caste is, even ABCD of caste, even the spelling of caste. The reason is, you are comparing caste from Tamil Nadu's perspective. You are comparing caste from the North Indian perspective. You are comparing from Tamil Nadu's perspective and North India, Maharashtra, everywhere, and you are comparing from literatures which are provided on caste. See, actually your land is very different. Okay, I come from Nilgiri district of Ooty, and in that Nilgiri also they used to say, even my mother used to say that there was never a caste here. Only in the plain region we had caste, like the Mettapalayam, Coimbatore, Chennai. Only there we had caste, not in Ooty. Ooty is a very hilly region. But actually my mother's experience, she used to tell, because one thing is, if you say caste is not there, the reason could be that you have normalized caste, that you don't even understand what caste is. So for example, in slavery, what Malcolm X and others used to say is that slavery is an ideology that you yourself say, that Malcolm X used to say that there are two kinds of slaves. One is the field servant and one is the house servant. He would say, he would quote one incident, he would say that a hypothetical situation, he would say, if the owners, if his owner, I think not owner, they would say master. If the master's house is burning, if I go and call the field slave, he would say, I pray God let the wind blow fast. But at the same time, when I go and say, when I go and tell the house slave that, hey, your master's house is burning, he would say, my house is burning, he would say. And he would die for it. So he would say that, let us run, for example, he'd say, let us run away from this slavery and we will have our own life. So this person, the slave in the field used to say, anything is better than the slavery of what we are experiencing here. But the house servant would say, no, are you mad? Because I get every kind of food, accommodation, everything I have. Are you mad to call me? So that is a kind of a slavery mindset we all are in. So if you say that, if somebody in Kerala says that there is no caste, it's because they have a normalized caste system in Kerala. Because I know Professor Yesudasan from Kerala, DHRM movement, and there is this Ayangali movement where a pioneer you were actually once upon a time, Kerala was a land of anti-caste movement was a pioneer even before Ambedkar actually. So only thing is, some of the Dalit writers in Kerala used to say that it is only because Ayangali's writing was not in English that he couldn't come out of Kerala. It's only Ambedkar wrote in English. He could reach across the nation. That is one argument. You cannot completely go with that because Ambedkar was also part of many national debates. He was talking about annihilating the caste entirely. So that is a very different thing. But what they say is also right, partly. So therefore, in the hills actually, where I live, my mother used to say there was no caste, but there was a caste system. She was being harassed, and there is. So somehow I wanted to study civil servant. So when I went to EFL University, I said that I'm coming here to study English because I want to become a civil servant. And my Dalit professor said that you have come from a Chaklier community. You first learn what your community is back on, and then you decide. Then after reading the literatures and the situations, then I saw my mother and father as sanitation workers, how they are facing harassment. Then I felt that it is no worth it for me to be a IAS officer. Therefore, I started studying about caste more in deep. So after studying caste, when I went to Nilgiri district, I found, Nilgiri hills itself is constructed based on caste. Hills itself. This is actually, you should know, how in the sense, lower level of the hills will be Dalits. Above the hill, middle of the hill, it will be OBCs. Top of the hill would be the Brahmins. This is fact actually. If you go next time Ooty tour, you just see any flat land houses are there, they are OBCs. Or Brahmins actually. You know that Brahmins are not majority population, but OBCs. But the OBCs, there are different kinds of OBCs. For example, in Tamil Nadu, this Sai Pallavi's caste, she is a very dominant caste there. So they are above Brahmins actually. So they ruled the Nilgiri district. So their houses would be constructed on a plain land, a land which never will have a landslide. But Dalits' land would be always in the landslide area on the water stream. So whenever there is a landslide happens, whenever people die, you should know that it is Dalits. So my houses would be in the lower bed of the water, and in the middle there will be a BCs like Dalit Christians, and then above that it will be OBCs, and after that Brahmins would be the church, temple would be there. So this is the construction. Then there is another thing is why we don't find atrocities in the Nilgiri district as we see other places is because you see we study caste as an interacting phenomenon. For an example, what we study caste, what the literatures we have caste is a caste as a violent form. We know caste as not as an individual form, as a form of harassment which is meted between the two people. So I would take this, I would say that caste as in Marxist term, caste as itself is a commodity. You don't have value, only you have value when you have commodity, value for a commodity. So in that sense, caste is when when a Dalit meets a non-Dalit and then the interaction happens and they both commonly use a footpath, then the problem comes. So it is always, this is the formula of caste violence. And that formula cannot be there in a hilly area, even including your Kerala. Because you have different terrain, and this different terrain you don't even meet the OBCs or everyday life. For an example, if I have to go to a school, not in Nilgiris, okay? Nilgiris, I have a separate footpath. Everybody will access because it's a hill, right? You can, whichever way you can go, you can go. You have to cross them, but it will be always public road. And public roads are far better. It is not that kind of a public road where it is controlled by the Caste village. Public road which goes in between Caste village is not a public road. It is a public, in theory it is public road, but in practice it is not public road. So the temple, we will have our own temple. We will have everything separately because it's a hilly area. So therefore the access to the other caste, it's very less and minimal. In that case, there is no violence. It does not mean there is no caste. We practice caste by individually. So that is where, for example, some people would say, like some professors would say, caste is reproduced. Some feminists would say caste is reproduced by women's body. Some professors used to say caste is reproduced through domination. Domination means, for example, Jats or in the North India, Reddis, Kammas, Kapus, they rule the land and therefore they reproduce caste. So this is where they argue, but I am saying that if that is the case, in Nilgiri districts, who's dominant? They are not reproducing caste because we don't meet each other. Caste is reproduced between individual phenomenon. It is not about group phenomenon. See, caste is never a community. Students should know. Caste is never a community. For an example, if I come from a Parya community or I come from a Chaklier community, it is not that I represent a complete Chaklier community. It is not that no Chaklier community can represent me. So there is no community as a single-handed community feeling. We do not unite. See, that's what you should know. Any oppressed group can never be united. Slavery, anti-slavery movement, if you take blacks movement, there were no unity there because slavery was so, the slave mindset was so ingrained in each one of us, in the oppressed groups, therefore oppressed will never unite. Another thing is in caste, actually you should know that caste is something creates about hatredness of, you have to hate yourself. So in that sense, caste is not about a community feeling, it is an individual feeling. So therefore I argue that caste is reproduced through space and body actually. So I'll just go with the 2-3 arguments and I'll complete my argument on caste actually. So the professors would argue, like every place they would say that caste is surviving because of reservation policy, and they would say caste is surviving because of literatures, British colonial literatures of census. These are the 2 arguments they will always say. Otherwise, caste would not be there. So if that is the case, actually, you know, in Andaman Nicobar Island, there are Dalits and OBCs, everybody living intermingling. They live together. There is no separate settlement for Dalits. There is no separate settlement for OBCs and all. They live, all of them live together. But very interestingly, their Dalits sweepers' work has been discriminated. See, that is where it is not about community certificates. For many professors used to say that it is because of my mother don't even know what community certificate is all about. But she knows that she was taught that who she is, which caste she belongs to. So therefore, it is not about, they all say this, Britishers came and they improvised caste and they modernized caste through many literatures, and there was this Orientalist coming from outside and they saw this all land which is being underdeveloped, and so therefore while other land across the globe were going for modernization and changing the old rule into a new rule, India was one land which was not changing. It's because of the caste. So therefore this is an Orientalist reading, they would say. So that is one argument they say, and this Orientalist reading was suiting many of the Dalits and the non-Dalits who wanted to talk about this. Therefore they stuck with this Orientalist reading and they want to portray that. And adding to that, the constitution says that there is a freedom of speech for everyone. Everybody is equal, caste is abolished, untouchability is abolished. So therefore they say that constitution gave a freedom of freedom for the people. There was some word they say, it was a big constitution where it found something emancipatory, and then they say that it also at the same time it gave reservation policy. So therefore reservation policy, what it did is, reservation policy, to attain the reservation policy, the political mobilization happened. So Dalit parties, Dalit movement, OBC movement all gathered together. They mobilized into a category called their own caste category. So it is all because of the politics and because of the reservation policy. This is what they argue. See, but very, very interesting is, none of them could understand how could caste survive all these years after Mughal, after British, after so many generations caste could survive. Even in Kerala, you might not even speak about caste. Even there was a beggar woman who was begging in Kozhikode in front of SIO office bus stand. I was asking her, she was Tamil. I know that only Tamils, most of Tamils are here, right? You know one thing? Yeah, I should tell you Malayalis actually. You know, in Kozhikode, have you seen septic tank cleaning vehicles in the daytime? How much caste society you are living? Septic tank cleaners are not allowed to clean your septic tanks at daytime. They are allowed to clean only at night time. You know, where do they all live? In the beach side. You go little 5-6 kilometers from Kozhikode and you see there on the beach side, all Tamils will be living, all of them are septic tank cleaners. Now tell me why they are not part of your mainstream politics. And why should they clean the septic tank at night? Okay. You can say you don't want to see the unclean vehicles going, or you can have many theoretically sound answers justifying the reason. But I will ask you one thing. Why shouldn't he be with his family at night time? Children goes to school, right? His wife goes to work. And you ask him to drive at night. Night time is a place where everybody drinks, right? And this job, most all of us think that we have habituated to tell everyone that you should drink, right? In that case, he will drink, right? At night time, he will not be with the family. Because none of the Kerala society is bothered about the septic tank cleaners, actually. There is one more thing, chakliers, totis. This is one thing very shocking for me. If somebody says in Kerala there is no caste, I'm just trying to say. So in Andhra Pradesh, when I was studying Hyderabad, Central University, all the Malayalis who came to my campus used to say, what caste if I ask, they may not know. But they know they are not the septic tank cleaners, toilet cleaners. They'll say, Totiyuda Magan, Chakliyan. You know the word Chakliyan. But he or she is not part of your Kerala society. Even now, until recently they've been fighting, how much hatredness a society can ingrain us. These Chakliers say her history at the 1950s or 1960s onwards, probably after the left movement came to Kerala, that there were protests happening and they were talking about labor rights. So therefore, the local community authorities thought that we should not appoint people from Malayalam Kerala speaking place because they would always protest. So therefore, we look for others and they went for the neighboring district. And this is too much, right? You want to be very progressive, you should have made progressive laws, not hijack people and bring people from Tamil Nadu to clean your shit actually. So then they came here, they were assured, there's a videos there, they were assured that they'll be given, they live in Arapura, that community. So they said, you come here, you will be given accommodation and you will be given a house and you will be also given a government job. So they come here in a vehicle they bought and they just dropped them and they left. Okay, it was an area full of bushes. And they cleaned the bush, they built the house and they have been living there and working there as a totis actually. Interestingly now, when the modernization everything came, now they became part of the city, main heart of the city. Now the Kerala society wants to remove them. They say, you left me in this area, we grew up everything, we settled there, even now their house is not a big thing. If Kerala society needs to them, they should have accepted them, right? And then they were not considered as a Malayalis. They were not considered as a SCs. So they couldn't get a job in Tamil Nadu because Tamil Nadu said that you don't have a ration card here, you go to Kerala. So Kerala said that you are not a Malayali here, cannot be given, you are a Chaklier, you Chaklier cannot be given SC status, you have to go to Tamil Nadu. So they have been roaming around here. There was a case also here, a medical student who passed top class, I think, a Chaklier. She came under SC category. There was a big issue in a few years before. So therefore, there was a problem about this. Then second thing, marriage. They work here, they clean all of the toilets here, and then they can't even marry a Malayali here. They don't get any Malayalis. Therefore, they go to Tamil Nadu and marry and come. So, one thing, all the literatures which wrote about these Chakliers, they said these Chakliers are a community which speaks Tamil and Telugu. So therefore, we believe that before they came to Tamil Nadu, they migrated from Andhra Pradesh. My point is this, many Tamil communities migrated to Kerala, in this Kanyakumari district. They are part of Malayali community. But why Chaklier community is not part of Malayali community? The reason is caste, right? So therefore, that is one, and then there's this septic tank cleaning. So therefore, what I want to say is, when you study caste from a literary point of view, that Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, then you will miss out everything. because it is not there on the ground. On the ground, it is only 2-3 castes. So you cannot take this OBCs like in Kanyakumari, where some OBCs came to Malayalam state and became part of Malayalis. You can't take them and say that everything is changing. You should take about the Chaklis who came to Tamil Nadu and how the caste has been changing, because the oppressed, you have to study the oppressed status of Dalits. So therefore, always the caste study was studied at 2 levels. One is the caste Hindus who studied caste, they studied caste from a non-Dalit perspective of studying the OBCs, okay, on non-Dalits of upliftment. When Dalits study caste, they study about the violence. So these are the 2 things which you have to know about caste. So I study caste. I say that caste is not a community. Caste is an individual phenomenon. It is ingrained in each and everyone's individual. We reproduce individually. And for that I talk about space and body. It caste nothing to do with the relationship between human beings. Okay. For example, my body is taught. I've been taught since my child. Even you would be taught actually. Some women also are taught. Most women, Indian women, would be taught that when you go out, don't drink waters. There are some cultural attachment is there. So women going out of the house should not drink more water because you won't have bathrooms, toilets. So that is one. Second thing is, that is total everyone. For us, for Dalits, they would say that don't shout and speak. Don't speak in a loud voice. Don't speak, always speak very low. They would say, and then they say that when you meet a caste Hindu, this is how you have to behave. You have to talk to they don't differentiate who is God there. Because on caste Hindus also they will call God, and they will call the God God, so they can't differentiate. So therefore, caste is about individual phenomenon, not a community phenomenon. And at last, what I would like to say is, caste is not a community, it is ingrained where you live for an ideology of hate. The ideology of caste is ingrained in hate for human beings. So therefore, I think that unless and until you break this caste and fight caste through concept of love and the fraternity love, so I think unless then caste cannot be eradicated. Yeah.
I would like to call questions from the audience.
Okay, if I eat in a mess, if you go to Tamil Nadu, I go to if you go to lower shops which offers banana leaf, if you take the banana leaf and you put it in the dustbin, that is Gandhian. If you say, I will not take the banana leaf, you take your banana leaf because I pay you cash, that is Ambedkar.
After taking the food, you mean? After taking the food.
Yeah, because there is a big tradition in all the campuses where even I studied. I used to take the plate and keep somewhere. See, that is not service. It is a labor. You have to differentiate between the labor and service. When you consider a service, a labor as a service, then you are underestimating the labor.
Yeah, one important point. The question of Gandhiji, although great father of the nation, he instituted caste system in a divine way. He was not against caste system. He was one of the main reasons to establish caste system in India. He said them, you are Harijans, the sons of God, and he made it divine and made it model. So that isn't that a problem?
Yeah, you said yourself, that's true. See, that's what, there was in the campuses, there's a new tradition of Gandhian coming there. Like you eat your plate and you take the plate and keep it somewhere else. So you say that it's a big service you're doing. But actually that is not. You cannot do every one of us are not given an opportunity to do a clerk job, right? Nobody says that collector is doing very hard, I'll go and do the collector's work. You don't say that. When police is having a lathi and saying, sir, you are doing very hard, I'll do that, nobody says that. Because you consider this labor as a cheap labor.